Rodriguez and Joella Mondragon here from TCEDC. First, we're going to have our mayor, Pascual Maestas, speak. And thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming. And so we're just going to turn some lights on so people can see it. And how do you want to handle it, Pascual?
I'll take like 5 minutes and then I'll answer questions.
Okay.
I think there was a lot to be discussed from the meeting yesterday.
Awesome. So real quick, just to update on what happened this past week. Besides getting over 800 signatures now for this petition, I think we have a couple 200 more today that we've received. Thank you guys for helping with that. So we're over 1,000 now in less than 10 days. So we've raised $1,425 for the tree trimming. The county is going to trim the trees before Halloween. So we don't have to worry about kids being out on the plaza, getting hurt, limbs falling, so that's really good news. And also, if you guys look at the kiosk, we got fall arts posters put in. We have 3 new art posters that are put in there for the fall arts, which is really exciting because they're coming up. And they've replaced the graffiti and all the scratches, so it looks really beautiful. Please look at it and let's give them kudos for that. And moving right along. Thank you, Pascual, for coming tonight.
Thanks for that. So I'm hearing a lot about the parking and wanted to come and talk to you about the parking and this idea of slowing the implementation, maybe a moratorium until construction is done. However, I want all of us to think about the longer term, the big picture of parking to think about. I'm open to compromise, but I want you all to see all of the things that we are considering when we're making these decisions about parking. Marilyn, I think you've done a little bit of research. You got some of our leases. The Loretto parking lot, for example, is $45,000 a year. That's an annual expense. And what I really want to highlight and point out is that there's no such thing as free parking. That if the town were to cancel that lease, likely the church would just charge for parking. They charge for parking on the other side, and they don't do an hourly. I think it's $10 a day, whether it's an hour or 8 hours. They don't have the system in place to monitor hourly, so they're just charging you a fee just to get in.
How many spaces?
On their side, I don't know. I mean, this is that little lot in between the church and St. Joseph's Hall.
How many spaces? What spaces are we leasing? How many spaces?
The Loretto parking?
Yeah.
I'll have to look and see the exact number of spaces.
I mean, is it worth $45?
I mean, that's a good question. We've been asking ourselves that.
Because I think last year, or 2 years ago, it was half that. As soon as they found out you were charging $2 park.
They've been asking for this to go up for a long time. The church has needed to make some money, and it's really theirs.
Yeah.
It came down to we're going to pay $45,000 or we're not going to get the lot at all.
Yeah, but how many spaces is it worth it?
It's a little hard because the bottom half of it isn't lined out.
It's also the farthest parking space from the plaza.
Sure. But these are all things that we're having to consider. And again, we could cancel the lease, and that just means the church is going to charge for parking.
So just so people know where it is, if you're looking at the church, it's to the right.
Right.
What
Right.
church?
The Guadalupe. So Our Lady of Guadalupe
Yeah.
is right to the right of that.
Oh,
People
just
Park.
Right across from the
Right
Bench
off
Street
the
Park.
Cedars.
Yes, right after this. Yeah, I mean, this
What
is
about the back?
that's all the church parking lot.
But, so are you leasing that?
We're leasing the entire thing.
Yeah. I was going to say, so there's got to be a lot of spaces.
There's a lot of spaces. We looked at the back for like RV parking or bus parking because it's not lined out. Half of the Bench Street parking is owned by the town. The other half is owned by, the third of it from the McCarthys, and the front part is, Sam, you have to help me, they own the rock shop.
Not the Apodancos, I don't remember.
They own
Sorry.
the rock shop right there next to Torrey.
And Brenner.
And Brenner.
That's it. Thank you.
And
So,
Brenner owns the front half of the bench.
how many entrances? 1, 2,
Entrances
to the
Parking lot.
to which one?
We're still on the radar, aren't we?
Loretto, we opened one up on the back. It's not really an entrance or, we did that because of all the construction. The schools and the police department were really worried about school pickup times. So we were trying to create an additional lot so parents can park and get their kids and drive out on Manzanares.
Well,
But really, it's only supposed to be one.
what I was getting at is, lots like that commonly have a kiosk at the entrance and a bar. That works.
You know, these are things I'm open to hearing about. You know, locations for the
So you
kiosks.
The gate comes up, you get in, and that works. Individual parking spaces that are controlled by a kiosk a block away, it's never going to work.
Again, I'm open to considering things like that. The gates are pretty expensive. We don't have the money for them right now, but the idea of charging for parking is so that way we have a source of revenue to make additions like that. I'm working with Charles on Main Street on the 7th. We're inviting out people to talk about what to do with the revenue. And if that's an idea that people would like to see, that's something we can implement.
Well, it's controlled.
It makes a lot more sense. You don't have physical liabilities of each of these customers now having to walk back and forth, find their license plate number. And it saves you guys legally a lot. And it's kind of like tongue-in-cheek to say it's expensive to put a gate up because we've done so many expensive things already. That to make that investment, if that is a reasonable way, or having front or back end control of each site, which automated is of course the easiest, unless you want to give somebody the job. But
Then you don't have to monitor it. You don't have to have an electric pickup.
Some of those lots like Loretto would work for that. Ben Street would not work for that.
no, but there's other systems for other places, like when we think of the gentrification. We're getting off topic too, because we really want you to speak. So I'm going to hold my thought, and I want you to continue, because I don't want to hold you up.
Well, so getting back to the larger picture of parking, I really see only two ways the town can go. One is the town gets out of the business of parking completely and just leave the private lots to the private owners to charge their fees for parking. Or the town stays in the business of parking, and we can make some changes. I'm advocating for what I would like to see is $1 for the first hour, $2 after that. Right now it's the other way around, $2 for the first hour and an hour. I think the $1 an hour
It would help those short-term shoppers.
will help the short-term shoppers.
That's right.
And I think the idea of parking is really kind of to create flow. Right? We want people to come in and out. And the $1 I think would help for that. And
Well, that's something that you want.
Santa Fe and Albuquerque are both $1 an hour.
I noticed that when I went to Santa Fe, it was $1 the first hour and $2 every hour after that.
And then max meters on a pole right in front of your car. You don't have to walk down the block, come back, I don't know my license number. And then there's 4 or 5 pages on the kiosk before you can pay. It's really complicated, and we have a lot of old tourists.
We also have a lot of old residents,
Amen.
and they're the ones who are really upset because they can't go downtown to their special stores there on the plaza that they shop at because it's going to be too expensive. But the chocolate factory, who's going to pay the $2 to go in to get an ice cream cone?
And the other thing, so here's a picture I keep having is because of the distance, how they're spaced, and they're not really easy to see, and the signs are unusual enough that they're not tracking people's brains for tracking. We've talked about, but this guy at the meeting last week, he talked about they're doing their signs. But, so one of the pictures is like, you got 20 kiosks, as I understand, and like Ben Street had 2 of these. And so, not saying not to use your kiosks, but you might need I would like to see a secondary system of, poles with meters, like on the plaza, where it's just pedestrian and it's so familiar and people are used to throwing a card in or whatever they can do there.
Or Ben Street.
Ben Street would be another great place to do that because again, it's an adjunct of the plaza. It's that quaint feeling, that little bit of quaint feeling. And they can be bought and used too.
We can look and see if the vendor has that option available.
Are you committed to only use the same vendor? Is that part of your contract?
It is part of our contract. You know, the original thought of taking down the meters was to give the plaza more of an open feel. So that way they're not all these meters up everywhere.
Well, it's funky.
It's like a hitching
It's
post.
Oh, we actually like to.
You know,
We did like them.
Nobody asked for
And
that.
also, I beg to differ about those meters that were put in. They said they were put in years ago. No. They were bought secondhand
They were bought secondhand, that's right.
from the previous administration, and that's why they didn't work.
And not maintained.
They work.
Are you done talking?
Sure, I'm happy to answer
Oh,
questions.
Okay, I just wanted to give you the space if you wanted to continue.
Albert wants to talk. Here's the question.
So, this weekend, I took Saturday and Sunday to help with the signatures, but more importantly, I like to meet the people. I met with every owner on the plaza.
Ben Street. And
Thank you. Dunn Street, Bent Street, and Pascual. Okay? And I talked to them, and I talked to some of the visitors, because on our signature page, you have residents and you have signatures for visitors. So the three things that I walked away with from all the people, number one, parking was expensive. Number two, the parking was so complicated to get done. People would come into the shops and I'd be standing there getting my signature and they're going, how do you work these things? I own part of a tech company. And we say if you can't do it in 3 easy steps, it's not going to work. And that was, the third thing was, without question, everybody's having a problem with the old issue of workforce housing. They can't get employees. And with the higher cost of parking, they can't find the housing. It's a real problem in this town. And I think that we talk a lot, and I'm not throwing stones at you or anybody else, but we talk a lot, but we still haven't actually done anything. And I'm a developer. I went up to Angel Fire 1 year ago, next month. We will be breaking ground on 102 workforce housing units.
why did you go to Angel Fire?
Because we couldn't get it done here.
Workforce housing as defined how?
Make part.
As defined how?
LIHTC for one.
And let me tell you about LIHTC.
I know about LIHTC, I built it.
And LIHTC has caused lots of problems in Taos. I get calls from people who live at Loma Pardo that they're threatened with eviction because it is a LIHTC property. You know, these properties, I hear the same thing at Ochenta. Bills going up by $200-$300, electric bills. Again, threatened with eviction. These LIHTC properties, you know, they're easy for developers to get the tax credit. And developers make a
No,
lot of money.
developers don't get the tax credit.
Developers make a lot of money.
Developers do not make a lot of money. The developers are basically restricted only to a development fee. They own 1% of the project. 1%. The tax credit goes to whoever buys the tax credit, and that is not the developer. And part of the problem
Who
is
gets the money from the sale of the tax credit?
the company, well, in our case, it's a specialist that sell tax credits, not us.
No, so they do the service of the sale of the tax credit. Who gets the money from the tax credit?
Who gets it? The developer gets it to build their project. How do you build a project unless you have the money? Banks aren't going to lend it to you. You know of any bank in this town that's going to lend it to you?
I'm saying I can tell you Steve Crozier has made a lot of money in this town doing these LIHTC properties at the expense of people who are trying to live here and under the threat of eviction all the time. I don't like LIHTC for that reason.
Okay.
And the town has no oversight. The Mortgage Finance
So what
Authority
is your
has no
suggestion?
oversight.
What is your suggestion?
We are working on this. This has been taking us a long time. We are one of the only communities that is this close to breaking ground at Chumisa Verde because we're looking at deed restrictions, soft second mortgages,
And
programs
how
that
many units are you going to build?
72 is what is out there. And there's a private developer across the street looking at 300, and a developer right behind him. We're trying to tie this all together to
Okay.
bring a few hundred homes. But programs like this to create workforce housing that are not LIHTC have never been done in the state before. And we're working very hard to get this.
And how are you going to fund this?
We've raised $6 million through $1.8 million from Senator Heinrich's office. I got $1 million from Coronavirus Relief Fund specifically for housing. We got $3.2 million from capital outlay from the governor's office. You know, the state is looking at Taos to figure out this problem around the state. It's not just like a Taos problem.
Oh,
This is
it's a global
around the
problem.
country.
Yeah.
It's a global problem, and part of it's a very complex problem because as long as we have Airbnbs, the price of houses are going to continue to skyrocket.
And I'm sure you know this, there is a gap. Anybody who makes less than the AMI cap for LIHTC can find a position and find a home. But the people in the middle, the teachers, the firefighters, the police officers, they make too much money to qualify for a
That's
LIHTC
correct.
property, but they don't make enough to buy on the open market. This is the gap that we're trying to figure out, which is why I say I don't like LIHTC, because this doesn't help our firefighters, it doesn't help our police officers, our teachers. They can't get into a LIHTC property.
I would be, at what we pay our firemen and policemen, I'd be very interested in how you're going to qualify them for something else, but okay.
That's what we're trying to figure out. That's why this is very complex. 'Cause
Well,
we're
it's
trying to figure
complex,
out-
but meanwhile, whether you like LIHTC or not, we're going to do 60 units of LIHTC. We're doing another 40 small townhouses without LIHTC. Okay, so we're going to be delivering housing, which they desperately need. So I applaud you. If you in the next 12 months break ground on it, I applaud you. And if you're going to do 72 units in the next 12 months, I applaud you.
It won't be built in 12
Yeah,
months.
right.
But we're going to have a developer selected and we'll break ground in 12 months.
Will it have parking too?
Of course it's going to have parking. It's required.
It's required, it's code.
Okay. But anyway, this is not about housing.
But that is good news though. And when do you, so within the next year?
I have to check today. I think the RFP for a housing consultant went out today. The housing consultant who has to figure out how to blend all of these funding sources together. Because some are federal through HUD that have all kinds of red tape, federal red tape.
Yeah.
There's capital outlay red tape from the state. We really need a housing specialist to help us figure out how to spend all of this money. So once that goes out and we get a respondent, then we'll put another RFP out looking for a developer. So if you're interested, you could submit an application. If you have experience working with all these different funding sources, because we understand developers need to make some money. We're not asking developers to build for free. We're providing some funds, the state's providing some funds. So they're going to put out this RFP, and hopefully we find a developer and break ground in the spring. That's what we're trying to do this winter, is take care of all this administrative part. Break ground in the spring.
Part of the problem with the existing low-cost housing is the way they heat with electricity. And Robert's doing a different thing. Instead of having baseboard heaters or individual heaters in the living space, you have a central boiler that's electric. And then it pumps hot water through the baseboard heaters, and much more efficient. Because those people are paying more for electricity than they're paying for their rent. I mean, it's just idiotic.
I hear you, and I'm very frustrated because my understanding is the developer took the leads tax credit and replaced all the heaters, so made money, and then shifted that burden onto the residents who are paying $300 or $400
That's
in
just-
$300 or $400 in electric bills to keep
This is
us
all
on.
trying to go,
Well, Pascual, thank you for communicating all this to us.
Thank you.
It helps to quell rumors that are running rampant out there. I am just thrilled to hear about all this. So thank you for coming tonight and telling us this.
well, thank you for listening and for being here and asking questions too. And thinking about the future of parking, I want us to come together on a path forward. That's why I say I'm open to this idea of a short moratorium. But then after that, I think we all need to be on the same page about moving forward.
We do.
And
we want to. We do want to.
And I want us to also think long-term about the revenue that's going to come in.
Sure.
Not just to pay for the parking lot leases and things like that we have to pay for, but we're estimating maybe like $100,000 coming in annually into the historic district fund, which is specific for the downtown. So when I hear ideas like we need the flower boxes or we need better safety, we've thought now that we have this money coming in, maybe we can hire a security firm. We could maybe even hire an additional police officer.
Or put cameras up.
Put cameras up.
That's really been a great deterrent downtown.
I really was an advocate for the cameras. Unfortunately, we had 2 council members at the time who were very concerned about invasion of privacy and requested that the cameras be taken down off the plaza and the parks.
But we know how well it's doing on John Dunn.
There are no cameras in John, well, at least no
The new owners put
official cameras. I know the owners put
There's a
some.
lot of cameras and it's really reduced the problems there.
Has there been research done on what you gain in gross receipts tax by having more people come and visit instead of coming here and saying, what a pain in the ass this is, I'm not coming back? I mean, aren't we, what if we just did, could we do free parking? Do any community?
There's no such thing as free parking. I'm telling you, the town can get out of it, but all that's going to mean is the church is going to charge for parking. And you have to consider the maintenance costs, because we don't want to present a bad parking, like a tourist comes in and slams in a pothole, and
Right.
We need cost to maintain everything.
Right.
So that's why I say there's no such thing as free parking. Somehow we've got to figure out a mechanism to pay for these things.
It just sends out a bad vibe.
Yeah.
I think this time is pretty tough. But if we can get past this to where we have this revenue coming in and we're making these improvements in the downtown, like good sidewalks, good lighting, safety and security, then I think the vibe will change. But this period of change is pretty tough.
But we have so many dissatisfied people, locals, travelers, alike, and so it's more than this is a hard time. And yes, change is not easy, but this didn't roll out well. It did not roll out well. And we have to make amends for that, coming up with a really clear thing that includes us instead of excludes us and makes us feel like, yeah, of course it's fair to pay someone to park. We know that these beautiful streets need maintenance, but not to the deficit of people. I mean, it's been there. I mean, I have a downtown business, and as I pass it, one kiosk, 4 times a day, going in and out, watching that, even with young people who have natural aptitudes for things, it's just a trip, and they're scowling, they're unhappy, and I don't invite that into my business. I don't let that go on in my business, so it's not coming from me. It's just an observance, and I think that you have to rely on us to share these things and say we need to find a way to, yes, get what you feel as a town you need out of maintenance and help, and now the funds to do the improvements that we've been begging for. We've been begging for it. We've been doing it ourselves. We know we show up so regularly to take care of this stuff. But it's more than that. But we have to get a better system.
I agree that the rollout wasn't ideal. I was a little frustrated because this is supposed to be a three pathway to payment
3-tier,
system,
yeah.
where it's card, it's cash, and it's the app.
Right.
And when I envisioned this, I thought we were going to have a lot of these QR codes up everywhere. Because I pay from the app, it's actually really easy. And I think locals who have the app,
They're ugly. They totally gentrify the town.
the app.
No.
Yeah.
But the
I know,
signs
the
with the
signs.
QR codes.
Everybody
If they're,
wants to
and
do
we
that.
heard that they were put up, they were gonna put more up, and they're just,
Not everybody needs the app.
But
but
it puts forward, we have this town that has this old flavor, and we have this history that it's like there's a shadow palpable of all these cultures here. It's like being in Europe.
That's why people come here.
And you put, but the thing about those signs going along with that, it implies that AI has taken over here. and there's not the human element. And that's really a big deal for so many people, because that's why we're here. We can avoid that crowd if we want to. So I'm just telling you, perception is a big deal. That's all. I'm not going to beat you up, but perception is a big deal. And maybe if you guys would sit down with some good business people, like real entrepreneurs, and say, let's create a team to put this together, because you guys understand people in business more than we've got, and we are here to do that.
And again, I'm open to suggestions. I want you to consider the other side. Our, Jake, our parking attendant, would spend hours every day collecting the coins. It was so much physical weight actually on him to deal with all these coins every day, which is why we're trying to move away from the coin-operated system.
But an updated system is, there's many choices in an updated system.
I also heard from merchants that everybody was coming in asking them for quarters, because nobody carries quarters anymore. So, I hear from a lot of different sides, like we don't
But
want the
that's a very
quarters.
black and white
Well,
response to.
Santa Fe and Albuquerque's individual meters don't have coin slot, they take dollar bills.
And cards.
They
don't
take,
And cards,
they take
and
cards.
cards.
They take cards
They take
only.
cards.
They don't take cash.
Well, they do, because I was
Only
in Santa
only
Fe.
cards.
Santa Fe's are only cards.
Okay. That's
And it's very
Takes
easy.
coins.
It's easy. It's easy. I mean, when I go to Santa Fe, I do the individual meter. You pay the coin. I mean, you can swipe your
A lot of
card.
people in this town don't use cards.
So
You can see we're trying to balance a lot of different needs.
Sure,
with this.
right?
Yes.
And,
So can we look at the option of bringing back the meter heads?
The coin-operated ones.
We're not
Well,
saying,
how
we're not
about-
saying
We're
that.
not saying, just the meter heads, so we keep our authenticity of our town. It's updated, but it's not this modern kiosk here, kiosk there, where people are running all over trying to
I mean,
figure it out.
I can check with the vendor and see if that's an option.
Yeah, right, right now,
Then
it's like we got a robot in every corner.
Then it's a card-only option.
It's true, though.
But okay. At least it keeps some of that authenticity. That's what we're trying to keep here. That's the problem with Kit Carson Cemetery. It's just, things are changing. Our locals,
I know
our
that one
locals-
was. I know
our
that one was
locals-
hard with them, but people were knocking down the headstones.
Then, but if you would have done the cameras like we asked you to a year and a
That
half
wouldn't
ago.
have stopped people knocking down the cameras. People were putting the flag in distress. I mean, as a veteran myself, that's very disrespectful.
That's not gonna stop anything, because the gates are always open.
It's stopped a lot. I can tell you it has stopped a lot because people aren't getting into the cemetery anymore. I mean, how
The
disrespectful
gates
is
are
that?
open.
They're during the day. They're open.
Then they lock them at
They
night.
lock.
What time, do you know?
When they close the front gates, they lock all the
Is
gates.
there a fixed time out for those things for the park?
Yeah,
I don't know, I mean,
Yeah,
we do
it's
ask
like
you.
seasonal, but when
it gets dark.
I think it's 7 in the summer and I think it's fall during the winter.
Okay.
But
I'm
I
just
mean,
curious, I'm not
I mean,
challenging you.
imagine a tourist comes in and they see Kit Carson's headstone vandalized or knocked over. Those are things that we were experiencing.
But cameras stop all the vandalism around us, like 90% of it stops when you have
I
cameras.
told you,
And that's
I supported
that's-
cameras in the parks and the plaza. We are still working through the implementation of the cameras that we've done now. I would like to see cameras back, at least in the parks. The plaza now doesn't belong to us, it'll be the county to implement that.
So how do we take this conversation of, I'd like to consider, I would think about that, how do we take that, because it's really great that you came, it's really great that you did this, but it's also what gave us frustration with the 2 or 3 other meetings about the parking, because we heard a lot of things in good nature, but it sounded very political, it sounded very cordial. How do we take this into implementation? What do we do with you and us? Because I think we're really clear that we want to be a part of this. I think that's part of it.
Absolutely.
A big piece of this is that we really want to be a part of this. How do we work as a team now moving forward? Because we're so action oriented, and it's very nice that you showed up and you're calm and but I want some way to know that we're going to meet at this date and we're going to start getting together and working on stuff and hashing out ideas. And
Are you a member of Main Street?
no, we've
I
got,
Main Street is the organization to have these kinds of discussions
Why?
because Main Street is like quasi-government. They are created through state statute. There's a state statute specific carve out for main streets across the state. The town is a partner. We funded Main Street 5 years ago to get it started. The county is now becoming a member. And the goal really of Main Street is to promote Main Street, which for us is a plaza, with the downtown area. So, you know, when I'm thinking like, how do I communicate with the merchants? The first thing I do is I call Charles.
Okay.
And we've got this meeting set up on the 7th.
No, I've got it in my,
I mean, this is one where I called Charles and said, hey, how do we spend this money? Let's meet with the merchants to figure out how to spend this money. You know, I really want downtown business owners to take ownership of this fund. It's a separate fund. General fund money doesn't go in, general fund money doesn't come out. It's specific to the downtown, and this has been a fund that was created decades ago. It's called the Historic District Fund. When the parking meters worked and people put in change, we were making $400,000 a year. The parking lot leases were a lot less back then. Of course, wages were a lot less. There was a lot of money that could have been put to beautify the plaza.
So, to join Main Street, is that what you're saying?
Main Street, I think, is really the organization to have these kinds of conversations. And if you look at Main Streets across the state, there are some very active ones. Clovis has a very great Main Street program working directly with their merchants in the Main Street area. Farmington also has a good Main Street program. It's been hard for Charles here. I think part of it is because there was an attempt to create a Main Street 20 years ago maybe, and it failed. And I think there may be kind of a bad taste in some people's mouth of Main Street still. I'm not sure what the rationale is behind everybody not being part of it.
There's another story for that, but I'm not really want to talk about that.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking more forward because Charles is a really good executive director. He's done a lot by himself. He's the only staff person. I'm hoping he's able to hire somebody else because we're giving Main Street a little bit more money now.
We'll invite him.
Okay, could we?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
We'll do that.
But the nice thing about Main Street is because they are quasi-government, they are able to secure a lot of money from the state. So they got $1 million capital outlay for the downtown.
So are you saying then, when you are looking to work things out with like the parking situation and bringing citizens and merchants in, the only way for us to do that is to join Main Street? I know I'm being redundant, but I want to be able to clear.
Not the only way, the best way.
Okay.
It's the best
So
way.
are you doing that with them though? Are you sitting down with them and saying, this is how we want to move forward, we want to come up with a plan, we want to be transparent? Are you doing that with them, that we are asking of you?
We are doing that with Main Street, not just on parking, but it's the $1 million for the capital outlay, it's the metropolitan redevelopment area. It's in my opinion, anything that's happening downtown, Main Street needs to be at the table.
So, excuse me. So Main Street got the $1 million that you're talking about, and it was for the center of the plaza. And so last time I was at a meeting with Main Street, because I'm on the board, I've just been a little absent lately. They told us that they're going to redirect the money that was for the center of the plaza into the alleyways. And so when I asked him how long it would take, it takes a year to reorganize where the money's going to go. So hopefully by next summer, we'll have that money allocated to the alleyways. Is how I understand.
So you did, just to reiterate, you said the county is going into the Main Street program also.
They are wanting to become a Main Street partner.
Which is great.
And actually, this is going to be the first town-county Main Street partnership in the state. I talked to the state Main Street director. He was a little concerned because this has never been done in the state before, where town and county are working together as partners.
Who has streets and the way things are? Where else is
It's always just been either a county partner or a municipal partner, but never a town-county partnership with Main Street. So we've got a little bit to figure out of how this partnership is going to work. But you know, we're both very happy and working well with each other between town and county. So I hope this kind of sets an example for the rest of the state of how to work together. Marilyn,
Well, can people compromise on parking? I think the problem that happened was that it was sort of shoved at people that it had to do with money all the time. Money. And Santa Fe only charges $1 an hour. They still take coins, but they take credit cards. So we should look at other people who have a system that they think works. I think that kiosk system on a regular street just does not work. Because as I was watering plants, I'd see people crossing the road in front of traffic, trying to get to a kiosk or even trying to figure out where a kiosk is. So, why don't you put the kiosks in the open parking lots and have a few of them there, not just one or two? If you're renting from somebody for a lot of money, like as much as $45,000 a year, I think they should have porta potties or something down there. There's no conveniences or anything for people who are traveling from a distance with children and older people who want to pee after they get out of their car. And, make it so that it's cooperative. And it should be more cooperative between the county and the town. Somehow, when the county took over the plaza, then the town didn't want to put any flowers on the plaza. That's very narrow-minded.
That happened before.
Yeah, but it is narrow-minded because if you give something to somebody, they're going to give you some back again. I think a lot of people, if it was explained to them that the town needs the money from parking, but doesn't charge $2 an hour, charges $1 or less an hour, makes the directions of how to do it easy. Because when I had a friend visiting, it was on the night of the concert, and I went to a parking meter, and there was a $15 charge, but it didn't say why. Now, I know why, but people who just came into town didn't know why. And, you can't have all the parking meters that are anywhere near the event charging that much for a day. And then, it looks like there's going to be parking meters all the way up to the Kachina Lodge. So there's going to be a fair amount of extra parking meters, if that's true. But it looks like that right now.
So Marilyn, I'm open to ideas. I think maybe the individual meters on the road make sense, and the kiosk makes sense like in the Loretto parking lot, where it's kind of one way in and one way out. Again, I'll check with the vendor and see if that's a possibility, if they can do individual meters. I think sometimes our actions are misunderstood. We didn't say we're mad because the plaza doesn't belong to us, we're not doing flowers anymore. It was because we had staff previously who were assigned for the plaza only. And when the plaza turned over to the county, or when the county took over the plaza, we moved our staff into other parts. So we just didn't have staff to work the plaza.
I have to interrupt, I'm sorry, but the flowers haven't been on the plaza for 2 years when you guys own the plaza. And this year, no, you didn't do it last year.
Not last year, because the last year didn't belong to us.
So
2 years ago we did, because our flower boxes got stolen.
There were no hanging flowers, and Kit Carson Road got left out this summer also.
But then I want to interrupt about that, is that, you would avoid some of that theft if there was a guard on the plaza, or a guard in the downtown area, especially at night.
I agree, and if we have a source of funding to pay for some security, that is an option for us to look at.
Yeah, but there's other things. I've been looking a little bit at spending, and there's other things that could be cut down in order to get that police protection. Because there's, the drug rehab center is all boarded up where they used to have it on Lima Road, and it doesn't seem like people who need help are getting help. So they're sitting around different places, including the plaza, making mischief because they don't know what to do with themselves.
I think it's good to ask the question and to understand the reason why that's boarded up is because the county, who owns the building, got a $3 million grant from the feds, who was Representative Ledger Fernandez, and they're tied up in the federal red tape on spending that money. Or else they have it open already. But they got the check. I remember I took the picture
So
with
why
them.
aren't these things being communicated to us? Because it makes you guys look just
No,
like scoundrels.
I mean, these things, they are communicated in the meetings. This is why I always ask, like,
They're at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and
They're-
I
they're-
closed my business and I lost $200 in business
they're
yesterday.
recorded online. You can watch them whenever you want. You can actually click on the specific agenda item that you want and watch that portion of it. They're at 4 o'clock because, we have staff. We don't want to keep our staff until 8 or 9 o'clock. We're paying them. They're already burnt out. A lot of them are very close to retirement. To ask them to spend hours with us, 4 o'clock we thought was like a compromise because the first hour usually is public comment, presentations. There's usually no action from 4 to 5. So if you came at 5:15 or 5:30, we're still there. I don't think we've ever gotten out, maybe once we've gotten out at 5:30 on a very short agenda, which is probably one you wouldn't go to anyway. We're there till 6:37 minimum all the time. And again, you can watch them all online.
We can watch them, but we can't get involved. That's the other problem. It's great. It's a good suggestion. I'm not trying to dismiss that, but it's also that.
There's a lady back here.
But I think if you watch them, we talk about a lot of these things.
Okay.
So maybe you wouldn't get the chance to be engaged in the meeting. You could always email us after. But I think you'd hear a lot more information. And I'll be honest, I'm very frustrated with the Taos News because there'll be 10 items on there. Things like the parks that we're paying money for. But the instant that there's a little bit of like disagreement between the council members or something, that's what they want to report on in the Taos News and highlight some controversy. I think it's their perception that that's how they sell their papers.
Well, that's how news does.
Right.
That's the media.
So speaking of flowers in the plaza, what's happening with the building next to my store right now? Is it you, the town that owns it? Is it the county? It's been red tagged for over 5 months now, and it's quite ridiculous. I have flies invading my store windows, and when I kill them, I have maggots in my windows. It's disgusting. But I want some clarification on what's happening with it. Chris Larson, he retired, he left me shafted. Frenchie, he left me shafted. I'm dealing with, I don't know what his name is now. I forgot. He's a very nice gentleman. I have yet to hear from him though. He told me he was going to call me a week ago, and I haven't heard from him.
So it's privately owned.
Coyote Club. Coyote Club. It's right next to the old theater. Yeah.
The theater's privately owned. It's Bobby Sod who owns the...
Yes, I understand that. And we've already said that we're not going to get a hold of Bobby Sod. Bobby Sod isn't going to work with you. But it's been 5 months. I think you guys should have already moved on it, whether it's been in courts. I know that there are rules and things to follow, but 5 months is a little ridiculous to have him reach out to you when we've already told everybody, Christopher Larson, Frenchie, that he's not going to go. He's not going to pay. He's already in a big old court battle for his other lands that he's losing.
This is the hard thing about government is that the government, we can't condemn the building unless we're going to buy it.
So can other people be open to buying it
Sure.
without him, without him saying, yes, I want to sell? Can somebody come to the town and say, we're interested in buying? I have repairs to do on my building.
People have done that. I've done that. I've made good offers to him.
He won't answer. I know he's not going to answer because I've already set up 4 meetings with him and he's shafted me all 4 times. But it's just frustrating because my renovations are on hold right now. And I have a roof that's leaking. What am I going to do now in the winter? Yeah, buckets on my stairwell where I have to send my girls down to go get freight. It's just insane. I just would like to have somebody at least come out when they say they're going to come out. That's the frustrating part for me. And I'm not trying to attack you guys, but it's just very frustrating. I've been dealing with it over 6 years now, and now it's just gotten worse.
If you penalize people for not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it's a health hazard, and they add up, and
He's been penalized.
Yeah.
Whether
So
about
the point is he-
$1,000 a month or $2,000 a month.
He doesn't care.
$5,000 a month. Eventually, then the
I mean,
property
we have
has
to
to go for
follow,
auction.
we have to follow the statute. We can't just come and say, this is $10,000 a month because I say it's $10,000 a month. And the problem really is, until it gets to be a significant amount, the town really can't do anything
It
until
is
then.
public safety.
It is public
It's
safety.
hantavirus. There are hundreds of
Which
dead
is-
birds in there.
yeah,
In
which
case
is why
anybody
he's-
doesn't know, and they've been in there for over 5 years.
Which is why
And the
he's
only
getting
reason it was
fined.
red tagged
Why
is
is he getting
because the
fined?
roundtable insisted on it being red tagged. And so
What's
Chris
the-
Larson red tagged
Is he
it,
paying
and
the
nothing's been
penalty?
done.
He's not. I mean, they're building up.
But what are they,
Well,
what's the range of what is?
I have to
ask
go
you a
look and
question.
see how much it is.
What is it, thousands that he gets penalized?
I don't think it's like thousands a month. Maybe it's thousands for a year. I have to go
Well,
look
it's
and
nothing
see.
so wealthy person.
Well, that's.
And that's the problem. Is
He's a billionaire.
Yeah, he's not living here, he's a billionaire, that's what he tells me every time. I'm a billionaire, I don't care, so.
Well, he's not a billionaire.
So that's another thing that we'd like to put our heads together and go, let's come up with something that's goes
we-
within the guidelines of how you have to operate, but puts an end to this. We're trapped. This guy is holding us hostage and affecting so many lives negatively, and there's gotta be a way, again, that you can take care of us.
Oh, yeah, and the sidewalk out in front of that building is dangerous. Nobody did
Yeah,
anything about
well,
it.
they're
They were
repairing the
working on it
sidewalk right
today.
now, and that's been quite the most
I
interesting
mean,
thing
this is
for my
the balance
business.
though between government and private property rights. I mean, at a certain point, when it does become a severe hazard, the government can start to step in.
It is.
But it is.
And
But
I
but I'm
spoke,
saying, private property rights are also very sacred in New Mexico. People don't like the government coming in and telling people what they can and can't do on their private property.
But
This
it's
is
in a
owned.
public, it's a commercial property, it's not a
It's
private
not public.
property.
I spoke.
It's a commercial property.
But it's privately owned by a private person.
But I spoke to Santa Fe, the state health department. They said it's up to the town to do something about it.
And
So
to do something,
they're out of it, so
but
it's
to
up
do
to you
something
guys.
means issue a fine. It doesn't mean go and,
About $100 a
So are
month.
you liable if something bad happens? Somebody
it
gets sick
doesn't
and
belong to
dies?
us. It doesn't belong to us.
But we
Yeah,
don't
but
know
you're
that
not
girl's
doing
getting
anything
sick.
to help us to protect us.
But I'm telling you, we're issuing the fines, which is what the town can do.
Can you
If
find out
it
how
was
much?
the
How
town's
do we
building,
find out how
if it
much
was the
is?
town's, I can find out how much
The
they
fines.
are.
So
If
isn't
it was
there,
the town's building, the town would be.
so isn't there a point where you would file a suit against the guy for non-payment? And is that what you're waiting for?
Well,
But you need to go bigger than small claims for this to be, for
I mean,
anything like
if-
not.
Guys, let's keep
If we
it.
filed,
Keep it.
if we went to court, and the court issued a ruling that we would have to buy it, we'd get the appraisal, we would deduct whatever is
Guys,
owed,
Carolyn,
deduct whatever's owed to the town,
Mhm.
and then we'd have to pay him whatever the fair market value is, and the difference of that.
But why does that sound that way to you versus the bank sounds like a good plan? Why does that building sound less of a good plan? I mean, it's a great property. If it was done, it'd be a great asset, and why couldn't you just turn it back around and sell
Because
it?
that building is a mess.
It's
It's
a hot
terrible.
mess.
No, I know that
Yeah,
it is. I know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to lift you up at all.
No,
I
that's
don't
fine.
mean, I'm so sorry, but I know it's a hot mess, but we're looking for avenues of resolution. And besides it being a hot mess, and that's all deductible at some point, it can be fixed and sold, or it can just be sold. Or you get it to a point where it's safe enough to sell for it to be legal.
The hard thing is, I mean, you're asking the town to come in and do this. I
Yeah.
think the best thing to do is, if we had a private partner developer, and now that the MRA is passed, the Metropolitan Redevelopment Area,
Uh-huh.
this actually creates some opportunities, legal opportunities for public-private partnership that didn't
Okay.
exist previously. This just got passed.
So
in the last-
Sam wants
would you
to
do a
talk.
public-private
Wait.
partnership on that project?
Now, and now that the MRA is completed,
Can we move on?
we can look at a public-private
Sam
partnership.
wants to talk.
If we move on, we have other speakers, okay? Thank
Okay.
you, Mayor.
Okay, well, wait. So does anybody have anything else? So basically what the roundtable is asking you to do is the same thing we asked last night. If you could please put a moratorium on it until the road work is done and until it's figured out. And if you would look into the other heads so we can have our quaint town stay the way it is, that would be awesome.
The compromise is I want your support afterwards. if we look at the moratorium and we look at some changes to this parking system, I want your support afterwards to say, there is a reason why this parking needs to be implemented. You all get buy-in on how to spend the money once it starts coming in and the bills are paid. But if
So
we put it,
you're cutting a deal.
I'm trying to cut a deal, because what I don't want to happen is that, we pass a moratorium, we still have bills to pay, and then when the moratorium is done, I don't want to hear afterwards, that worked great, let's get rid of parking and make it free for everybody. That
That's
doesn't
not
solve
all.
anything.
No, but what we've asked for is that you come to us with a reasonable plan, and if you look into what you say you're going to look into with the old heads that we can get at least around the plaza back, then of course. I mean, we always keep our end of the deal. We always have. And that's why we give you a hard time, because we've always been transparent. You guys know things as soon as we decide. If we decide to do a petition, you know about it as soon as we, so we'll keep our word if you keep your word, definitely.
And to work through Main Street, that's really the avenue, because I know, there's merchants here that are come to the roundtable, and there are merchants in the downtown that aren't part of the roundtable. Main Street really is the organization where everybody should come. You still have both. You have the roundtable.
I gotta say that,
We're here because we want to see actions. And when, I'm part of Main Street and we say, where are the wayfinding signs? And it's still been a year since my first conversation about the wayfinding signs, and I hear they're in kind of, so we're about action. So we'll reach out to them. I'll ask Charles to come, no problem. Yeah, and we'll get involved with them.
Well, I think you should go to Charles, is really what I think.
That's what I'm
I mean,
thinking.
Charles can come here and talk to some of you, but I think all of you need to be part of Main Street.
I sent an email requesting membership.
Yeah.
yeah, the thing that we're concerned about is it seems like the last people that are considered in the changes are the people that live here.
Yes.
There's all this talk about, in the future, this and that, and our tourists and wealthy immigrants and blah, blah, blah. But it seems to me that the purpose of having a government is to protect its citizens and its businesses. So why do we have two giant gas stations on the south side of town that we don't need?
We can't get into that.
I'm just going to say really quickly that the town doesn't decide who gets to be a business and who doesn't get to be a business. If a gas station comes in and they meet the requirements for zoning and they want to put in the gas station, they put in the gas station.
Well, then change the zoning.
I'll tell you the answer. If you don't like the gas stations, go get an electric
No
vehicle.
one gas station is lit up.
Okay,
No,
but
I'm saying
I
there is
just-
enough demand here that gas stations see this as a profitable place. So that's why they're setting up shop.
Lit up like the
It's not the
Vegas
town,
but-
it's not the
but-
town making decisions
but-
on who comes in and who doesn't.
But do we have any say-so anymore for building like what they look like?
If they're meeting the requirements in the code, they're meeting the requirements in the code.
Well, other towns regulate businesses.
We regulate
coming.
too, but they don't say yes or no. They have a code, and if a business comes in and meets the code, they get
Then
their
our codes need to be adjusted, or what's gonna happen here is what's happened in every small town I've ever lived in. Walmart comes in, all of corporate businesses set up in the south part of town, it becomes impractical to do business
So
in the core downtown. It
Let me give
becomes
you
the
an
most
example.
expensive place.
let me give you an example. We do have a code that if it's larger than 40,000 feet, they aren't granted by right a business license. They have to go through that special use permit process, and they have to go before planning and zoning, and they have to have a public hearing where the public can come out and speak for or against. That's the process when things deviate from the code.
Well,
But if they are within the code, they have the right.
we have these buffers now between the sidewalk and the curb, all the way down this new 5-lane interstate coming into town. Who's responsible? Is it just weed patches? It looks like crap.
It's the Department of Transportation.
Well, they're not doing anything.
Okay,
So
guys, so let's wrap this
I have
up.
one question.
Yes.
You mentioned how the county is going to partner with this Main Street organization. I'm wondering if will they be able to take some of that money to Cuesta, or will they have to make an official agreement with the village?
That's a good question about Cuesta. I'm not sure.
I'm sure they could use some of that money.
When it comes to the unincorporated areas like Peñasco, I know they can do a project with Peñasco. Cuesta, I don't have the answer to that. Cuesta might need to become a partner.
Right.
So just to recap everything, thank you so much, Pascual, for coming. Okay, so to recap, so you're on board with having a moratorium until the road work's done?
I think if we can come to this agreement.
Can come to agreement? Everybody?
Yes. Are we saying moratorium for
Until
this
the
year
road
or the
works-
complete project?
Until the road work is done and until we get a comprehensive plan
That's
from...
a good question.
Well, we have to delineate.
The road construction.
I didn't hear that.
Are we delineating the road work done for this year or the complete project?
Just downtown, just in our historic district where it's really affecting...
Because the road, this
He's
project,
asking how long.
But I'm saying, so what, is it,
Tell us
what,
that.
historic district, is that to Civic Plaza, is that to Casitas? We need to be really clear with each other on these boundaries.
thank you. I agree. DOT has told us that construction should end late October, early November. I'm hoping they can get kind of both lanes done, but it doesn't look like that anymore. If the roads are open up, I think that's the end of construction.
That's what we want to find out, what you say.
So you're
what we
saying till
say
October, November?
Till October, November.
this year. And that, so in the meantime, you feel, now that, I forgot the gentleman's name who was having these meetings with us, but he was saying something like, by the first of the year, you want to be implementing your real plan. That you really can't until then, and it really is going to take a lot of heads coming together. So I want to be clear on that piece of the conversation too. So we're not just talking at the end of October or November, we're really talking the first of the year to implement parking. As long as we're not cut off again by construction next season, that's got to be clear.
That, and there will be construction next
That's,
year.
I know, so we have to put these variables in just to be really clear, so we never sneer at each other again.
I agree because, like I said, we still have the bills to pay.
Yeah.
Um,
And so do we turn it on, turn it off? You know, if we're cut off again next year to finish the eastbound lane and all the utilities, do we do a moratorium for that period again too, because another season? So this is what we need to get really clear about, because we don't want to be sneering and angry all the time.
Maybe this is another meeting because we could also look at turning areas on and off.
Right.
Um,
So let's, because we need to move on, these ladies with soap issue, but we need to know how to get this closed with you.
So when will we meet with you again?
There we go.
Let me go with Charles, because I think the meeting should be with Charles and the town and all of you. And figure out
A specific time for us all to get together on
time
this
and a plan forward
in
for
the next couple of weeks, please.
in the next couple of weeks.
Cool.
Next couple weeks, okay, so we have clarification on that. As far as the dead birds, where are you at with that? Because we're gonna keep pushing. We're gonna get it out there then, and we'll call
Lieutenant, if you want to buy the
whoever has
building,
to.
that's the fastest way.
We saw a piece of paper that said he paid $109,000.
He did. We paid
Oh,
$109,000,
What's that?
When?
not that long ago, actually.
Yeah.
Within the last,
Well, you know, if that's the value of it, then maybe
I
it's
think the
not so
town
hard
could
to
afford
afford.
it.
I don't want the town to take on the mess.
I don't blame you.
somebody has to.
That's why I say if there's a developer,
So can you get me that information? I may have a buyer. Nobody's come to see me, so I'm shafted.
Well,
So I need for your end to come and meet me because they want to see the inside of this building.
we don't have access to it because it's.
I have access to it,
Um,
but I'm only willing to let you and your people come to see it because me and my people are we've got a lot going on already, and we're just trying to move forward on our renovations, and we've been trying to contact somebody to get information on how to get it cleared up, if somebody can buy the building, and nobody's told me nothing.
If you have a buyer, I don't think we need to go in the building. If you have a buyer, we need to talk with them and Main Street actually, because this is part of the metropolitan redevelopment area. If there's an opportunity for a public-private partnership, just have to sit down and talk with them. What I don't want is, I don't want the town to buy the building and then the buyer backs out and now the town is left with a giant mess.
So,
Maybe we should be
Public
advertising for
safety.
a buyer.
Sure.
I mean,
Say, if you find a buyer, that makes things a lot easier.
think outside the box.
he wants like $3 million for it, doesn't he?
I don't know.
I have no idea. That's where I'm like, there's no number, set number, but your guys wanted to come and see it to see if we can go forward to the state with it because of how bad it is. So that's why I'm waiting for your guy to come and talk to me, but I haven't heard from him.
I'll reach out to him. He's pretty busy because he's getting complaints about the dark skies ordinances.
Yeah.
He's going around and actually issuing a lot of citations.
Yeah, so we're just trying to find an end to this so we can move forward with our renovations.
Okay. This conversation is not done. We're gonna get to the
Yeah,
bottom of it.
it's
Thank you.
still a thing.
Thank you so much.